Hey guys, it's Kevin from the New Warehouse Podcast. I'm here in the Resonant Link booth doing this Power Talks series with them, and I'm joined by Chris Lingamfelter of Robot Advisors. If you're not familiar, he's the guy doing all the recap videos on a daily basis at all the big trade shows, and he's got tons of knowledge around robots. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about what he thinks about robotics and automation right now in the space and what he's looking forward to in the future as well. But first, Chris, it's good to see you.
Well, always good to see you, Kevin.
Yes, always a pleasure. So,
and congratulations on your 5-year anniversary.
Thank you.
For those who don't know, it was 5 years ago last night that you published the first podcast?
Yes, March 10th. Yeah, first episode of the podcast featuring Bruce Welty, actually, which didn't know was that big of a deal at the time, but I've learned over time it is.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Robot Advisors and what it is you guys do?
Happy to. So I started Robot Advisors a year ago, so it's our birthday as well, not 5 years.
Congratulations.
1 year. Yep. Yeah. And we do three things. So I like to say, if you have a warehouse, we help you find the right robot for the warehouse.
Okay.
If you've got robots, so that's thing number one, for people who have warehouses. Thing number two is if you have robots, we'll help you figure out how to find the right warehouses with a go-to-market strategy. We will do actually execution for folks. Yeah. They tend to be startups that have great technology, but don't have the experience necessarily on how to bring that product to market.
Interesting.
Or they might be companies based outside the United States that want help entering our market.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that we do is the videos that you mentioned, which is we bucket that into our kind of like media category. Okay. And that's just really building the Robot Advisors brand.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting too that you kind of play on both sides of the aisle a little bit, right? Working with the solution provider and then working with the end user too to be able to bring that together. So I'm curious as you look at that and probably especially from like the warehouse side of things, I mean, what solutions are really kind of maybe getting the most attention from those warehouse customers now that they're looking for robotics and they're looking for these specific solutions to solve their problem?
Yeah, very good question. So we have 6 different what we call focus areas at Robot Advisors.
Okay.
So they are inventory drones, using drones or towers for inventory accuracy. They are pallet moving AMR, so just moving a pallet around the warehouse, right? Picking AMRs, which is typically like a Locus or a 6 River, right? Yeah. We also cover goods-to-person ASRS systems, right? And truck unloading, loading.
Yeah.
And each of those is in a different phase of its technology adoption, right? So, 6 River has been in the market, obviously acquired by Ocado, and now it's called Ocado Intelligent Automation. Yes. Yeah. Locus has, got tons and tons of installations, right? In the ASRS goods to person space, they're talking about thousands and thousands of auto store systems that have been deployed, right? Yeah. So some of the solutions are more mature, and then I mentioned at the top. Yeah. Inventory drones, that's a relatively immature space. New. It's only been around for a while. So it really depends on what that you're talking about. When we talk about Robot Advisors, we chose the name because robots are cool, right? But I apply it to any new technology inside the 4 walls of the warehouse that is really revolutionary, and people need help kind of figuring it out. And that's why we named the company Robot Advisors. And for the next cool thing that comes along, we'll call it a robot if no one else is, just so we can study it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that excuse, by the way. I mean, I think it's so interesting too because it is that advisory I think needs to happen, right? Because we're here at MODEX, right? And you look around, like even we could just look like just around us here, and we could probably point out at least 1, 2, 3 robots like within 25 feet from us, right? It's just everywhere. So it's very hard, I think, for somebody that doesn't have like that background in robotics or automation to really understand like where do I start versus like, oh, this is cool, like let me try this, right?
So we published a blog post yesterday titled "Avoiding the Perils of Choosing the Wrong Robot" / "Don't Be a Kid in the Toy Store." And this is like the world's biggest toy store for interlogistics robots, right? They're all cool, but the point of the blog post that Sean and Neil did, I want to give a plug to Sean at Robot Advisors, was, hey, have a plan, have a business idea, like where do you see your business going? Just because it's cool doesn't really mean it's going to advance your business objectives, right? And that's something that we do when we advise folks is let's take a step back. Yeah, look, these are cool. They're going to be labor saving for you, but is that the lowest hanging fruit and where you should start? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's do a broad canvas of the marketplace, find what's going to impact the business the most and have the best ROI, and go tackle that project first.
Yeah, I think that's such a smart approach, and I think it is kind of, because you kind of do get caught a little bit like the kid in the toy store, like you said, and you get that like shiny object syndrome, or like, ooh, wow, like I remember, I had some experience in a warehouse, and my boss at the time, we had maybe like 25 feet of conveyor, and that was the extent of our automation. And this is before like Boston Dynamics Stretch like even was like commercialized, anything like that. And he goes, "Can we figure out a way to automate unloading our containers?" And I'm like, we are not even anywhere close to like getting that done, right? We need to go like a lot of different steps before you even get there. And I think, I think sometimes that's lost on people who, are not familiar with the space or know how to do that. So I think it's great to have that advisory. So I'm curious, you're looking at all these solutions all the time. You're doing your videos here, and I know we're only day one in the afternoon here at MODEX as we're recording this, but what are you seeing that's most exciting in the robot space here so far?
Interesting question. I mean, what really excites me, and I don't, it's not like one thing I saw, and I get very excited about the integration of multiple kinds of robots in one workflow.
Yeah.
So, it's I don't want to say it's easy, right? Robotic projects are never easy, but choosing a robot and doing like one task in the warehouse faster is valuable, but it's not very valuable if you just now pile up stuff for the next, right? And like then you end up like upstream, whack-a-mole, right? And I've got islands in this stream of automation, right? And it's really like, what's the flow through the building? What's the future state that you want to achieve? And where are the handoffs and how does that integration work?
Yeah.
I'm doing a session actually tomorrow in Theater I on procuring multiple robotic types and with end users. So we've got Tim Barrett from Barrett Warehousing. Okay. We've got Southern Glaciers Wine and Spirits and Svorker Limbo from Ocado, talking about on the user side of Ocado, how they put together a workflow and procured different kinds of robots, but had one continuous stream, and how did that work for them?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's here at MODEX tomorrow. So things that I think are particularly exciting and we're making big headway on is just that, right?
Yeah.
Also, the human interaction with robots. Still, people are a little bit worried if going back to your example, they're skeptical. Is it going to take my job? Right? Is it safe? So I think the human impact of robotics is really not just in warehousing. It's going to change dramatically over the next 10 or 20 years, life as we know it, right? And I think that certainly how work happens is going to change dramatically, right? And as a society, we're not 100% prepared for that kind of disruption, but it's going to happen.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the more we can do to prepare people and retrain them, I think that's very, very important part of the story. Not something that people talk about, vendors don't talk about that, right? But if you look at it on a big scale, we're talking about the nature of work, pretty much changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great too to see kind of that human focus too. Like how do we? Yeah, I love that. A lot of the robotics companies have taken the approach of like, how do we make this easier for the human, right, to do their work? How do we come in there? We act as a tool to be able to make them more efficient, more productive, and do those types of things. And I think that's such a smart approach to it, because it is, we are seeing, Gen Z is not knocking down the warehouse door to come and work in the warehouse, right? So we got to do something there. And I think, making it smarter, making it a little cooler too with robots, helps to attract a little bit. But I'm curious actually on the human side of things, right?
Yep.
What do you think about humanoid robots in the warehouse?
I think there's they hold a lot of promise. I'm a little skeptical. I'll be perfectly upfront about it. I think that if you think about the flow, let's go back to that flow, right? Humans you and I are incredibly adaptable. We can sit down at a CAD station and design an expansion to the building. We can also go and help someone unload tires.
Right.
They call that job lumping. It's the worst job in warehousing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just bulk loaded tires. It smells. It's terrible, right? You and I could go sweep the floor, right? We could go hang Cat5 cable in the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to find a humanoid robot that can do all of those things,
right?
You know, so as we think about the future of work, right? Robots didn't start in warehouses because warehouses are very dynamic in the kind of work that happens. Robots started in manufacturing, where you pick this up and you put it over there.
Yeah,
you pick this up, extremely repetitive, right? And that's just a natural flow as a single robot can start to do more and more things. And, and eventually someday there might be humanoids that can do everything, but that's a long, long way off. I think personally, if I were, one of the humanoid companies, I would find something that it can do well and focus on that, right? And but it gets to this whole question of, how does it fit in the flow? What's it going to do? I mean, you're not going to have a humanoid go pick something up from receiving, go put it away, pick something else up, take the box over, take something out to the embroidery station, have it, sit down at the embroidery station, type in the logo, file number that needs to be printed on that, right? Then put the dunnage in the package, right? See, tape the package up and then walk that over to the UPS. I mean, maybe, but I think different types of automation for each of those steps is for a very large facility probably makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to that overall flow that you were talking about, right? And I think that it's hard to see, like you said, if you think about, because some of the argument, at least that I've heard around humanoid, is that like, oh well, warehouses were designed in North America to be around humans, right? So the form factor of a humanoid should translate, right? But I think to your same point, it's not. We're far away off, I think, from a humanoid being able to do like we would do and say like, oh, I dropped this off here, so while I'm over here, like let me grab this too, and then there's a piece of trash here, I'll pick that up on the way, and all those things. And I think it's very interesting to see. It's very cool technology, right? But I think we got a little ways to go there, right?
That's my feeling.
Yeah.
One person's opinion. So
yeah, absolutely. So very interesting to talk to you here, Chris, and always appreciate your insights on the robotics side. And how can we get better in touch with you on Robot Advisors?
So a couple of things. One, definitely connect with us on LinkedIn. So we publish the daily video updates that we mentioned.
Yes, they're
we
fantastic.
Release at midnight every day. There's a big trade show. So tonight we'll be dropping 2 videos from today on the show.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, well, they can only be 14 minutes long on LinkedIn. So we have to cut them up. So most likely we'll do 2 today, 2 tomorrow, 2 on Wednesday, and then 1 on Thursday. So you can catch those on either LinkedIn or YouTube, and then sometime the next morning they're added to our archive on our website. So people can obviously check out our website. But frankly, if folks are here, just like you said, and they see something that's really exciting, please shoot me an email at chris@robotadvisorygroup.com, and we'll go check that out, because some of the best tips on cool things we've gotten from folks that are actually at the show. So.
Yeah, very nice. All right, so definitely reach out to Chris, connect with him, connect with Robot Advisors, check out their videos, and reach out to them for all your robot needs. All right, thank you very much, Chris.
Kevin, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
All right, enjoy your time in Atlanta.